The term inclusive gets thrown around quite a bit in our culture here in the United States and beyond, mostly the Western continents. And those who say it don't know how to implement it because more often than not, it is a one-way street when it comes to that. Now, people say that stuff because they want to appear altruistic, but they really are not. They care nothing about the people that they are so-called arguing for to be inclusive with. And at the end of the day, all this is really is a whole bunch of gaslighting and virtue signaling. And what you'll find is that if you press them just a little bit, they are not as inclusive as they think they are. We'll get to that part in a few. Because we have a different mindset, a different standard, there is one thing that RPG elites will never say. And yet this is a phrase that gets said in the tabletop RPG community a lot. I want to address that today. And the thing that we will never say is this: everyone is welcome at my table. No. Hecky nah. When it comes to gathering around the table and playing at a tabletop RPG and investing hours of our time into it, RPG elites have no qualms about saying that they are not all inclusive. We are quite comfortable with that. Now, why? Well, because we're discerning. We are discriminating. We're picky. This falls right in line with the RPG Elite quality number 5, which I've done a pair of videos on. And if you haven't seen those videos, I'll have links for them down in the description below. And I suggest you do so if you're interested in the RPG Elite philosophy or really to get some understanding about this video you're watching right now. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 3 reasons why RPG elites never say that phrase. I'm also going to give a way that we would say it to others. So this is an alternative way of saying kind of the same thing. And I'm also going to show that people who say that, many, not all, but many, like dare I say the majority, often use a double standard when it comes to that phrase. Now, if you have no idea who I am, my name's Servant of Shiloh. This is RPG Elite, and this is the place where I focus on putting the RP back in the RPG, giving you tools, tips, tutorials, and real talk about the tabletop RPG space and culture, which is what we're on today. We are on some real talk. So we're gonna slide into this today immediately, like right now. Now, don't get me wrong. When people say everyone is welcome at my table, I know what they're trying to say. I do, really. However, it's naive. It's gullible, and it's more often than not the catalyst for introducing all kinds of problems in your sessions. It's not living in the real world filled with human beings, those problem individuals. So I recognize the sentiment. The sentiment is a noble sentiment. It's just not practical, and neither is it wise. Listen, I'm not trying to rain on your campfire here, all right? I like optimism. Shoot, I will pray for the best to happen, but you gotta understand something. See, I'm an optimistic realist. And that means that, hey, even though I pray for the best to happen, I deal with what is in front of me. In other words, I don't ignore what's in front of me for the sake of optimism. We're looking at things as they are. So we're not saying the same thing over and over again and thinking that somehow magically in contradiction to reality, that this thing that we keep repeating will somehow magically appear, or by osmosis or some other process. That is not how we approach this. We're not going to bury our heads in the sand and wish for the best, especially if reality is right in front of us. We take reality as it is and we adjust accordingly. Every RPG elite does this, especially when it comes to who is going to sit at our table. I know people are gonna get all up in a tizzy because I use the word worthy. Now, before you go all out and get a knee-jerk reaction and get triggered and then throw lucid responses all out the window, let's go ahead and define terms. You guys know, who have been watching this channel for any length of time, know that I like to make sure we're all on the same page. And even though we might speak the same language as far as English or something, it doesn't mean that we all mean the same thing. So when I give definitions as far as this is what I'm talking about. And if that's not what you want to do, you don't want to go there and you still want to be triggered, this probably is not the video for you. So let's go and define this word worth or worthy and make sure we're all on the same page when it comes to this. So the first place I went was the Oxford Dictionary, and it defined worth like this: having or showing the qualities or abilities that merit recognition in a specified way. Now the Cambridge Dictionary defines it in this way: deserving respect, admiration, or support. Yes, amen. Hallelujah and praise the Lord, pass the ammunition on that one. Oh, yes. Wholeheartedly agree with that. See, understand something. We are afforded respect because we are respectful. You don't deserve respect. You earn it. And you earn it because you are respectful. People give you the benefit of the doubt in the first time that they meet you. But when you throw that out the window, you don't deserve Nathan. It is afforded to you by grace. Many people are not worthy on the basis they are not enjoyable people to be around. They don't necessarily have to be toxic. Much of their actions are passive aggressive. They just don't exhibit the qualities that RPG elites look for in individuals who's going to sit around their table. So what are some of the things that we look for? Let me give you 5. Number 1, we're looking for people who are going to be respectful, people who are going to be courteous and cordial, people who will be invested, people who will be involved. And then it's going to help here, if you're humorous, be able to take a joke, for crying out loud, especially in this culture today where you can't even take a joke anymore. It's ridiculous. People like Don Rickles just would have been canceled long ago in this culture. Far too many people are self-absorbed, narcissistic, and whiny little triggered people. And they bring that attitude to the table. If things are not going the way that they want it, they gonna let somebody know. And often what happens around the table is that, the players just won't say anything, right? You wanna know why? Because they just don't want the drama, right? And so what happens is they just end up grinning and bearing it. 4 to 6 hours of a tainted, very uncomfortable session because of an individual or individuals who shouldn't even be sitting at the table at all. This all because no one had the boldness to take them aside and say, nah, we don't do things like this. We ain't doing this. That attitude is selfish, to sit up there and just say nothing, because that silence has a detrimental effect for everyone at the table. Somebody needs to take that person, pull them aside and be like, we just don't do that here. We don't act like that here. That is not how we roll. And it doesn't need to be the GM that needs to do that. It needs to be somebody whose time is valuable. So if your time is valuable, that means you. This would be the reason why everyone is not worthy to play in a tabletop RPG group, especially an RPG elite group. The excitement of playing a tabletop RPG sometimes make us skip over the very important things. So what happens many times is that we, try to get people together, and that's a struggle to get some people together. I mean, it's less so with virtual tabletops, but hey, still, if you're one of those people who insist with getting together live, then it's either still a struggle just to get people together to play. And then after that, people are so excited, they just want to get into it, and they get into it and they start playing. Then all of a sudden, I don't know, maybe 2-3 sessions in, we start to realize, everybody is going in a different direction, and what's going on here? The reason for that is that the expectations were not laid out in the very beginning. Tabletop RPG sessions are a time-intensive endeavor, and sitting down for 4 to 6 hours a stretch is just part of the time that's spent. A GM spends a whole lot of time, maybe 2, 3, 4 times, what a session is going to last just to get the whole thing prepared. And that also includes whether or not that they are starting world building from scratch. There's a lot of time invested. Playstyles need to be considered as well. RPG Elites, we focus on high and medium level roleplay. Some players focus on low level roleplaying, and some don't roleplay at all. The ones I call heavy tabletop RPG abusers. So trying to accommodate all of these different styles and everything just ends up being a cacophony and chaos, and it's just arduous and not fun. This can be avoided by setting expectations before you even start to play, sometimes called session 0. If someone is not looking for what is being offered, then they don't have to waste their time playing something they wouldn't enjoy. This is out the gate, right? So they know, oh, this is not for me. If you set expectations, then you cut all of that stuff out right out of the gate. Now, I said that I was going to show this double standard of people who say, everyone's welcome at my table, because normally what happens in those situations, when you get around the table with one of those individuals, and you just happen to be somebody who kind of disagrees with them on a whole lot of things, you're going to find out just how inclusive they really are not. They say they are inclusive and diverse, when really they mean they are like that when it lines up with what they want, or everyone around the table has the same outlook as them. And you see, some of these people avoid the impropriety of how that looks if they don't really want somebody at the table. So this is what they do. They won't say that people can't play, so they'll have them play, but what they'll do is they'll make it uncomfortable for that person. Maybe ignore them, pay more attention to the other players or whatever, and they're still sitting around the table because they really don't want them there, because guess what? They're not welcome there. That person will eventually probably get the hint and then leave. And then they can say, oh, I didn't tell them to leave. I told you everybody's welcome at my table. Liar. Liar. See, they try to gaslight you with that stuff. To say everyone is welcome at my table is a red flag for RPG Elites, because that person normally will be a weak individual who will tolerate anything, or there will be a sinister individual who really don't mean what they say. But many times it's the former, because they want to have bodies to play a game, and they're more concerned with appearances instead of experiences. Now, what RPG Elites will say is something else. We won't say, well, everybody's welcome at our table, because that's not true. Everybody isn't. But what we will say is something like this. Okay, well, let's go ahead and let's see if this is something that you would be interested in. So we're still interested in the person and what they want, but we need to see what they want. And we need to see if this is something that falls in line with what they want. See, that's how you approach those things. This might be a reason why a lot of you are having some problems right now in your tabletop RPG. Because you don't take reality into account, then the people who are not supposed to be at the table, who are not worthy to be at the table, are there. And then those people have a whole different expectation, which you can't blame them if you didn't give the expectations from the very beginning. Let me tell you what happened with my One Ring campaign, just real quick, just so you guys know how this looks. So I did not choose the One Ring. It was my players who chose that. I did not choose that game to play. I gave them 5 games to choose from. And then I said, okay, you guys, you go ahead, vote which of the 5 games you want to play. I let it go at that. Now, there were certain games that I wasn't going to play just because of who I am. But at the same time, I'm just going to let them go ahead and choose something that they like. Now, I personally wanted to play NUMENERA, but I was like, hey, I'll just go wherever they'll go. But there were some things that were non-negotiables that I laid down. No profanity. You treat each other with respect. These are simple things, ground rules that I laid out from the very beginning. My campaign has been running for 5+ years. See, the expectations were set. Some people were like, oh, wow, I can't do that, right? And I was like, that's fine. That's great. That just saves people a lot of headache. But we're certainly not going to sit there and say, well, everybody's welcome at our table. Oh, no, no, no. We're not gonna be that foolish. Now I know this is kind of gonna be one of those videos that's gonna be touchy for some people. I get it. It always is, especially in this culture. It's ridiculous. But at the same time, you have to understand that tabletop RPGs are ultimately about the people who are there. And if we're not even on the same page out of the gate, what makes you think that I want to sit down and play in a tabletop RPG with you? Or really a board game or anything else? And sometimes people, when they hear worthy and not welcome, and they think that it's personal. It might be. It might be if you're just that kind of person that nobody enjoys being around, then it's personal. But it may not necessarily be personal because of the third reason, right? That we're just not going in the same direction here. I don't want you to be in a place where you're not going to enjoy yourself. So it's not necessarily personal, though it can be. Hey, if you've gotten any value out of this video today and you're not mad and you're still here, then go ahead, do a brother a solid and crush the like button, boom. And also, if you want to stick around, if you thought it was good enough for you to stick around, then go ahead, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell also. Well, the question of the vid is this: can you think of some other reason why you wouldn't say, well, everybody's welcome at my table? What's another reason maybe that I didn't think of that would be a reason not to say that phrase? Go ahead, let me know down in the comments below. Yeah, use the noggin a little bit, y'all. Use the noggin. Y'all know what time it is, right? It's time for a brother to do his snuggle puss.
So exit, stage left.
Hey, if you've got a tabletop RPG session this week, then happy gaming. Hope it's an RPG elite session. Also, I got some other videos for you. We got a special edition video coming up this week, God willing. We're all still here, so stay tuned for that. Until Friday, I'm gonna catch ya on the flip. Peace, y'all. I gotta say it the old way. 5,000 Leets, a brother is outie.